Missoula Softball Tournament by Richard Hugo. I'm going to read it and then maybe we'll talk about it a little bit. This summer, most friends out of town, and no wind playing flash and dazzle in the cottonwoods. Music of the Clark Fork stale. I've gone back to the old ways of defeat. The softball field, familiar dust and thud. Pitcher winging, drops and rises, and wives, the beautiful wives in the stands, basic, used, screeching runners home, infants unattended in the dirt. A long triple sails into right center. 2 men on. Shouts from dugout, go, Ron, go. Life is better run from. Distance to the fence. Both foul lines in dead center is displayed. I try to steal the tricky manager's signs. Is hit and run the pulling of the ear? The ump gives pitchers too much low inside. Injustice, fraud, ancient problems focus in the heat. Bad hop on routine grounder. Close play missed by the team you want to win. Players from the first game, high on beer, ride players in the field. Their laughter falls short of the wall. Under lights, the moths are momentary stars, and wives, the beautiful wives in the stands, now take the interest they once feigned. Oh, long ago, their marriage just begun. Years of helping husbands feel important just begun. The scrimping, the anger brought home evenings from degrading jobs. This poem goes out to them. Is steel of home the touching of the heart? Last pitch, a soft fly, a can of corn, the players say. Routine like mornings, like the week. They shake hands on the mound. Nice grab on that shot to left. Good game, good game. Dust rotates in their headlight beams. The wives, the beautiful wives, are with their men. So, right away, and the question when we read poetry, a lot of times is like, all right, well, this is a poem about softball, but we're going to assume that it's more than softball. And when we get things, and we should start from the beginning. I don't know how much time we're going to put into this video, but we should start from the beginning. But when we get lines like this, marriage, husbands, degrading jobs, and it's about wives, the poem goes out to them. So we know that this is probably going to connect because it's about softball, but we also have this emphasis on the way life is, and the routine, like mornings, like the week. We have all these lines that talk about life, and so we're going to see the connection between softball and life, and we're going to ask ourselves, I guess we can. And we'll go between. That's a abbreviated BTN, softball and life, right? And that's something that maybe we should ask ourselves at some point, right? One thing to think about is who this I is. The implication is that this is not something this guy does all the time, or this person. For some reason, I assume it's a male, but we'll look closer. The idea that he's gone back to the old ways of defeat, meaning he wasn't there at some point in the past, and he talks about this summer as opposed to it's not every, right? It's not every summer. So we know this is kind of a temporary thing for him. He's going back. He doesn't always do it. So I would look at the speaker as an outsider a little bit. He's not one of the husbands and the wives. He's kind of watching from afar. So he's able to kind of view this separate from those participating. There are some lines in the beginning that are tricky, but I kind of want to get to some of the more meaty lines, just so we get a start on this. when we analyze poetry, the language really matters. So when we get stuff like, I've gone back to the old ways of defeat. I mean, first of all, uh, this is a poem apparently about defeat, uh, not victory, right? I mean, maybe this impacts the tone. It's not, I've gone back to the old ways of victory. I've gone back to the old ways of, fun. It's defeat, right? So there's something that's been defeated. There's something that's not, successful here. Um, and then we see this word familiar, right? Which is like, I mean, we know what familiar means. It's something that we are used to, but it also has the root family. And so this is the type of very specific analysis that we want to look at. This is about families and lives. Um, and this is kind of one of our first places where we see that link. Now it's buried in the word that we know, but this is the type of specificity we need when we look, right? Dust and thud, pitching, winging, drops and rises, and wives, the beautiful wives in the stands, basic, used. So one thing that we should look at too, and I'm going to circle this one because I'll bring it out here, but the women are never referred to as women or by name. They're always wives. And that is because that's the role that they're playing here, for better or worse. They're playing the role of wives. That is their identity. That's their category in this poem. And so this should have us think about that's the role they're playing. How would we describe it? The role, describe. Are they successful? Is some things to think about. Now we know that it is the old way of defeat, so it's something to think about. And then look at here. We have these adjectives, beautiful, right? That's a wonderful, I mean, right? That's positive. But then look at this. They're also described as basic and used. And so when we read a poem, we should be asking ourselves if we see conflicts or we see contradictions, and we should explore those things. We started with, well, what's softball in life? What's the relationship there? And that's something to ponder. How can the wives be beautiful and used? I can't. Used and beautiful. I'm left-handed, so I don't want my hand touching the screen. And so it's hovering. That's beautiful. Oh, it doesn't look beautiful, but it's the word beautiful. All right. Screeching runners home. And then we have them. So we have them as beautiful, but we also have them screeching and used. And so how can we be used and beautiful? And just to kind of get to the point, we're going to see that the beauty might not be a physical beauty. The beauty might be a behavioral beauty, that they are behaving as traditional wives behave in this poem. And this poem, I would say, is a critique about traditional roles. I mean, again, it's the old ways of defeat, and then we see people fighting and bickering later in the poem. So this is not, hey, look, let's everyone, stick to our roles. That's not what this poem is talking about, but it's exploring it. And in their role as a wife, as a supportive wife, they're viewing and we'll get to the word attending to the husbands. And so they're fulfilling that role here. And I think that's a way that they are beautiful, even though they have, as the men have gotten older and less, whatever, they've aged. The women have, as the men have, but yet they are beautiful because of their behavior in certain aspects of this poem. Infants unattended in the dirt. So look at this. Now this is a nice little parallel. Think about we have this word attend. When you go to baseball games, not now, but when you do, you attend them. So the infants are unattended, right? They're not being attended to. And that's how you would use that word. But it also is should make you think of attending the softball game. And where are the infants? They're in the dirt. Where are the husbands? They're in the dirt. This parallel makes the husbands seem infantile, number one. It shows also that the wives are not in the role of mothers. They're in the role of wives. They can do one thing at a time. And right now, they're attending to the men. They're attending the softball game, and the infants are being ignored. And this is not a criticism of the wives. This is, again, just to show kind of the split of their role, and also to draw a parallel. I think this is going to be quite a big, it's a criticism of the arrangement in certain ways. And it's a criticism of the men also, that they need this type of attention. And so we see, I boxed out familiar, I boxed out attended. I mean, these are the things that when we write about poems, we need to kind of focus in on, and tell me why the word unattended matters. Shouts from dugout, go Ron go, life is better run from. I mean, here we have a reference to life. And like, what does this mean? In what way this softball, how is softball running from life, right? That's something to ask yourself. I'm going to stop it here because we got to the first stanza, and maybe I'll make another video of the second stanza.